Hi, I'm Professor Goins. Welcome to the Math Professor's YouTube channel. If you're looking for videos explaining topics in pretty much any college mathematics course, please consider subscribing and then checking out our playlist, watching our videos, liking, commenting, sharing those videos. Any of those simple free interactions are greatly appreciated because it does help us to grow. And we're a pretty small channel at this point, but again, we would like to be able to reach a larger audience and grow. So let's go ahead and start the video. I want to take a look at something called the rep factor. Now, this is an application of a pretty simple algebraic formula that you can apply to weightlifting. And here's what it says. If you perform an exercise n times with a weight x, then your 1 rep max, which I will henceforth abbreviate as ORM, then your 1 rep max is approximately given by the following. Okay, I'm going to take 1 plus 0.03 n and then multiply it by the weight x. Essentially, the idea is that every successive repetition is going to add 3% to your overall 1 rep maximum. Now, just a quick caveat, I have not done any research on if the 3% is, if it's exactly 3%, if it's 2.9%, 3.1%. Maybe it's different for different exercises. Maybe it's more dramatic for squats, like maybe it's 4%, and maybe for bench press it's 2.7%. The idea is that 3% is a pretty good approximation, and it will serve the purpose for the current video and for any application that you're going to do while you're in the weight room. It does help get a pretty good, accurate estimate for what your 1 rep maximum would be. So let's take a look at a handful of examples to see how this works. So for example, suppose you did 6 repetitions of 165 pounds on a barbell bench press. Okay. What is your 1 rep maximum if you did 6 reps of 165 pounds? Okay. Using the formula that I have over here, your 1 rep maximum would be 1 plus 0.03 times 6, and then I'm going to multiply that by 165. Okay, I'm going to grab a calculator. 1 plus 0.03 times 6, which is 1.18 times 165, which gives me, I'll round it to the nearest pound, which gives me 195 pounds. Okay, so if I was able to bench press 165 pounds 6 times, my approximate 1 rep maximum would be 195 pounds. All right. Next example. Now, in the weight room, a lot of times people, especially beginning weightlifters, always have this just goal of being able to bench press 225. Why 225? Well, that puts 245s on each side of the bar, and it just looks impressive, especially for, again, beginning weightlifters. So let's say, how many repetitions of 165 pounds, again, I'm assuming barbell bench press, How many reps of 165 pounds will give a 1 rep max of 225 pounds? Okay. Well, in this case, what I don't know is the number of repetitions. I know my 1 rep max that I'm looking for. I know the weight that I'm looking for. So what I have to do is I have to take this equation right here and solve it for n. Let me go ahead and do that. So once again, let me write the formula. The 1 rep maximum is 1 plus 0.03 n multiplied by x. So for this exercise, I'm looking for how many reps will it take. Well, let's go ahead and solve this for n. So if I divide both sides by x, I get my 1 rep maximum divided by x is 1 plus 0.03 n. So I subtract 1 over. Okay. And then I'm going to divide by 0.03. So I get the number of repetitions is going to be the reciprocal of 0.03 multiplied by the 1 rep maximum over x minus 1. And let's go ahead and plug numbers in. The number of repetitions would be, so 225 over 165 minus 1, and that gives me an approximate value of what? 1 divided by 0.03 times 225 over 165 minus 1. So I get approximately 12.12. So I'm going to say this is approximately 12.12, and that's actually repeating. Now, if I hit 12 reps, chances are, in practical purposes, it'd probably be a little bit, it'd end up being a little bit less than 225. So what I would have to do in this case is I would have to round up, and I would say as long as you hit 13 reps of 165 pounds, you should have a 1 rep maximum of 2.25. Okay. Now, another practical application of this would be, well, what if you're in the weight room? So let me kind of set this up, and then I'll clear my whiteboard here. Suppose you're in the weight room, and again, you're a beginning lifter, and let's say you're working out with, say, 165 pounds, okay? And let's say I'm able to hit it for 8 times. So I'm not, and I have no spotter, right? So I'm doing barbell bench press, 165 pounds. I put up 8 reps, and I'd like to put more weight on the bar. So I'd like to maybe do 190 pounds, let's say. Now, let's also say I haven't done 190 pounds before. The most I've been working with is 165. I put up a solid 8 reps. I'd like to put 190 on it, and I don't have a spotter. Well, the question is, how many reps can I anticipate being able to hit at 190 pounds, or 200 pounds, or 205, whatever the case may be? So let's go ahead and let's see how I can compute. If I know how many reps I can get at a certain weight, how many reps could I get at a different weight? So let me go ahead and clean this up, and then I'll set up the example. So here's the example. If you can do 8 reps, again, just think barbell bench press. If you can do 8 reps of 165 pounds, how many reps of 185 pounds could you do? Certainly it's going to be less, but by how much less? And again, imagine you're at the gym, you don't have a spotter, and you're like, you know what? What can I anticipate? I put 185 on the bar. What do I think I'm going to be able to get safely, right? I really don't want to put myself in a position where I'm going to get stuck. Chances are, every gym I've ever been to, if somebody ends up getting stuck under a barbell for a bench press, people rush over and help them pretty quickly. But you can't always count on that. So let's go ahead and see how this would work then. So solution. Well, first and foremost, if I do 8 reps of 165 pounds, I can go ahead and I can compute that 1 rep maximum. Well, that 1 rep maximum should be the same weight or the same value if I did 185 pounds, but I just don't know the number of repetitions. The idea is that if I do 1 plus 0.03 times 8, and I multiply that by 165, that's going to, again, give me my 1 rep maximum. But I also should get the pretty darn close to the same 1 rep maximum if I did 185 pounds, 1 plus 0.03, but I don't know how many reps yet, of, again, 185 pounds. So what I'll do is I'll take this equation right here and I'll solve it for n. Okay, go ahead and divide both sides by 185. So I'm going to get 1 plus 0.03n is 1 plus 0.03, oops, 0.03 times 8 times 165 over 185. And then I'll subtract 1 and divide by 0.03. So the number of reps would be, again, I subtracted 1 and then I divided by 0.03. And then this would be plus 1 plus 0.038, 165 over 185. So that's some calculator work that we'll do really quickly. Negative 1 over 0.03 plus 1 plus 0.03 times 8 times 165 divided by 185. Now before I hit enter, let's just see what would be a reasonable guess. If I could do 165 for 8, 185, I'm going to say 5 reps. Oh, I did something wrong on my calculator. Let's see. Negative 1, subtracted 1, 1 plus 0.03 times 8, 165. One plus 0.03 times 8 times 165 would be 1 plus 0.03n times 185 divided by 185, and then I'm going to subtract 1, and then, oh, forgot to divide this by 0.03, that's why. I was just getting ready to pause the video and then redo the whole thing, but there we go. We had to divide both things by 0.03, so I'm going to go ahead and pop that back in here. I get 3.5. In other words, I'd probably hit 3 reps with a little bit in the tank, so I actually overestimated there. So see, if I was doing that myself in the gym, and I was like, okay, well, ballpark, I should be able to hit 100. I should be able to hit it 5 times. I'd lose about 3 reps. I'd probably get stuck under the bar if I had in my head that I'm going to do 5. I definitely would be able to hit 3. That 4th one is iffy, and then after that, I'd probably get stuck. So again, this is a pretty quick computation that you could do. And again, you could always just have all these like pre-solved for in a little notepad, and then just pop these numbers in your calculator really quickly, just to kind of get a rough idea of number of reps. One last thing that I want to take a look at, again, just kind of a real practical application again for when you're in the gym, and even quicker than this. If you perform 3 reps at, let's say, 225 pounds, this could be bench or squat, okay, deadlift. But if you perform 3 reps at 225 pounds, what is your 1 rep maximum? Now, again, I mentioned that each additional rep adds about 3%. So 3 reps would be 9%, but for practical purposes, that's pretty darn close to 10%, and 10% is really quick to compute. So I should be able to add about 22 pounds to that, and therefore, excuse me, if I add 10 pounds to that, add about 22, you should be able to hit to 247, maybe 250 pounds. Now, if I was doing deadlift, worst case scenarios, you just can't pick it up. But for bench or squat, you probably want to have a spotter on that because that might be a little bit high. But again, it can just give you a really quick estimate for what your 1 rep max would be. If you perform 3 reps, you should be able to add approximately 10%. Okay, so just a couple of quick applications of the rep factor, which would allow you to compute your overall 1 rep maximum without actually performing a 1 rep maximum. So it's just another way that you can kind of keep track of your progress in the weight room. And again, one thing that I personally do is when I'm performing a certain lift is I might use the same weight and try to each week try to add 1 rep. Okay, add 1 rep, and then once I get to say 10 to 12 reps, then I will increase the weight by 10, 20 pounds, something like that, depending on what the exercise is. And then again, your reps would drop back down, and you're going to add 1 rep each week. But this will allow you to kind of track your 1 rep maximum without actually computing a 1 rep maximum. Thank you for watching, and please consider subscribing.